or not you want to accumulate property as a buy and hold or as a buy and flip. And I think that if you can accumulate property in the long run, you're going to be better off. So, for example, one of the first basic, super important things that I have used in the past to acquire property is when you buy property, one of the best ways to grow your real estate portfolio is to convert your exit property into a rental property and buy a new property to move to. And anyone feel free to jump in and comment or ask questions whenever you want. But, you know, when you buy a property as an investment property, how much do you have to put down? 15 to 20%. On a $300,000 property, that's $50,000 to $60,000. That's a lot of money. And that, you know, for people who want to grow their real estate portfolio and they want to do it by buying one house per year, that's tough for some people. But the easier way to do it would be if they own a property now, or even if they don't own a property, they can buy a property, put down the minimum 3 to 3.5 to 5%, move into it for a year, and that could ultimately be a rental property, or you could convert your exit property into a rental property and start growing your real estate portfolio like that. Now, you have to be careful with that, because if you're living in a $300,000 property now and you want to grow your real estate portfolio, and you want to buy a $300,000 property, the lender is only going to give you an owner-occupied loan if it's reasonable for you to owner-occupy it. So if you're living in a $300,000 property and you want to buy another $300,000 property, how do we know which one is going to be the primary residence? And that's a big issue, because the terms, the down payment, the interest rate, the underwriting, the qualifying, all of that is much different if it's a primary residence versus an investment property. So what I did, and what I would recommend you do, and this is one of the first 5 steps of growing your real estate portfolio, is you should start small. And it's like, say if you start with a 250, live there for a year, and then your next property is a 300, and then the property after that is a 350, and then one after that's a 425. What are you doing each time you're buying one property per year? You're increasing and improving your standard of living, which the lender feels is reasonable. But if you start at a 350 and then you want to buy a rental property for 3.5% down that's listed for 225, they're not going to do it, because very infrequently do people downgrade their standard of living. So you would want to start small and then trade up year after year after year, each time converting the previous property into a rental. Now, when it comes to getting the right property that's got great potential for appreciation, one of the things that I've done that has been very helpful and successful for me, my model purchased years ago, and even today, I'm always looking for a bargain, to be honest with you, but my model purchase is a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse with an unfinished basement. Why? What I've done in the past is you take that unfinished basement, hopefully it's a walkout basement, so you can, when you do your search criteria in Bright, you can search for that kind of criteria. What I have done, and what I would suggest you consider doing, is you take the washer and dryer in the utility room that's in the 3-level townhouse in the basement. You take that washer and dryer and the water heater and you relocate them under the stairs. And when you do that, you can convert that dead space, that den, that concrete floor that nobody uses to store, they only store like the ski equipment and the vacuum cleaner. You can convert that, into livable space, a den, or possibly even a bedroom if it's got 2 means of egress. And then usually in the basement, there's hopefully at least rough-in plumbing, or maybe just a half bath. And you can convert that half bath or the rough-in plumbing to a full bath. So your typical 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouse, without increasing the footprint, is now a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath townhouse. And you look at the comps and you're going to have instant equity just by being creative about the basement. And today, and I know this from personal experience because I do loans for people and I'm always getting calls for this kind of thing. People want accessory apartments in the basement. There's lots of different ways to create them, and then you have to be careful with the zoning and whether or not you have a kitchen and how you go about that sort of thing. But basically, they want these accessory income producing apartments, mother-in-law suites, however you want to call them. And they're very attractive for Airbnb. A lot of people are doing that. And then a lot of people are converting their basement apartments or basement areas into places where their elderly parent can occupy. So whether it be for you or for your clients or for the family size today, it's all over the place. What is the typical family unit today? Who knows? All kinds of, people are living with all kinds of different situations, single parents, all kinds of different things. So having that kind of an arrangement in the basement is appealing to just about everybody. And it's great to talk about to your buyer clients at your initial buyer counseling session, because a lot of times they don't really know what they want. They want to beat up the seller and get closing help. But if you show them and you discuss with them at your initial buyer counseling session the vision of making the basement area income producing without having to increase the footprint, they're probably talking to 2 or 3 other realtors. And it's unlikely that the other realtors are going to bring that up. Another thing that you could touch on is renovation financing. In many cases, you can roll in the costs to convert the basement to making it livable space, especially if it's an unfinished basement.
Is that with like a 203K loan?
Yeah,
Steve?
exactly. Thank you for asking that question. Yes.
Is that the kind of loan you're talking about? You couldn't just do
Yes,
it conventionally.
exactly. There's the 203K, which is a dynamite program, FHA, easy on the credit, 3.5% down on the acquisition costs. Acquisition costs are the as-is price plus the renovation budget times 96.5%. So you're financing the as-is value of the home plus 96.5% of the improvements. And basically you can do almost whatever you want as long as it's supported by the comps in the neighborhood.
Now, if it's in too bad a shape, are you able to get an FHA loan?
Well, that's the beauty of the program.
Right.
That's the beauty of the program. And, it takes vision. And, your buyer clients, a lot of them are thinking turnkey ready to occupy, but, you do a search for turnkey ready to occupy, you get 5 or 6 listings. You do a search for short sales and foreclosures, as is, cash only, hard money, seller not willing to make any repairs, you get 13 or 14 listings. And by the time they get finished rolling in all their improvements, if they have vision and a little bit of patience, that property is going to be worth as much or more than any other property in the neighborhood. They're going to have instant equity. And then when you talk with them, you need to talk with them, and you should always remember this. You probably already know it, but there's the $4 per thousand rule. And what is that? And the $4 per thousand rule is for every $1,000 that you increase your price or your renovation budget, it raises your monthly payment about $4. So if you do,
Can you say that one more time? Every $4,
every $1,000 that you increase the price increases your monthly payment about $4. So if you do a $40,000 improvement, $4 per thousand is like $160, $180 a month for increase in the monthly payment. Where can you get a $40,000 of improvements for $180 a month? Nowhere. And if you bring that up in your buyer counseling session, they're going to just stare at you like, why didn't I know this before? Why didn't I talk with you before? And I'm never talking to any other realtor. I'm just going to deal with you. So yeah, the 203K is a dynamite program for that. In fact, whenever anybody talks about renovation financing, that's a program that comes up is a 203K. But what a lot of people don't know is there's a similar product, a sister product, that's conventional. That's even better because FHA is 3.5% down. Conventional renovation, home style it's called, is 3% down. So it's a 0.5% less down payment. And, you know, everybody knows that conventional financing is a little tougher on credit. So if you have decent credit, hopefully scores in the 700s or low to mid 700s, you're eligible. It would make sense to go with a conventional renovation loan versus an FHA renovation loan because the mortgage insurance is less expensive and the down payment is slightly less. As you know, with FHA, there's mandatory 2 types of mortgage insurances. There's the monthly and the finance type. And you put those 2 together and they're pricey. But if you have reasonably good credit, low 700s, low to mid to upper 700 scores, even if you're a first-time home buyer, you can get a regular conventional loan with 3% down or a renovation conventional loan with 3% down. There are income restrictions, and your income can't be more than 80% of the area median income, the geographic area that you're purchasing in. So there are some restrictions. I can run all those numbers for you. But so yeah, in answer to your question, the 203K is a way to help grow that real estate portfolio. So that's like the second important step is to keep in mind the use of renovation financing because it's less competition. A lot of other people don't want to fool with, you know, dealing with the contractors and doing the legwork and having to wait. But if you know if your buyers are writing offers and they're not getting accepted and everything's selling above list and no closing help and they're getting frustrated, you got to think outside the box. And that'll do it. The renovation financing will do it. Okay, so let's move on. Or does anybody have any other questions on that, on any of the things that we've spoken about so far?
I've got
Okay.
one more, but I don't want to cut in.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
The income restriction is on the home style conventional 3% down loan or on the 203K loan?
It's on the 3% down conventional loan.
Okay, very interesting. I've never heard of it, so that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a real, I use that program all the time. Excuse me, because it's got a slightly reduced interest rate. It's got reduced mortgage insurance. You know, the smaller the down payment, the more expensive the mortgage insurance is.
Right.
So it really helps if you have decent credit to use that program because the mortgage insurance is really much more manageable and the rate's a little bit less, and the down payment is less, and it's just a great, great program.
How do you find out what the median income is in the in the surrounding area, like the census?
Call me.
Okay.
I'll figure it out for you.
Okay, all right, thanks. It's a weird one.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll back off.
Okay, so I want to share with you a story that I've had some success with, and I think I mentioned that my daughter's 21 and my son's 18, and I'm trying to get my daughter to buy her first house. And however you want to look at it, that's another way. This is the third item to grow the real estate portfolio. And my daughter is graduating from college, and she's going to go to grad school, and she's probably going to live with housemates. And she can do this as an undergrad or as a graduate level. And there's a mortgage program out there that says that if the parent can qualify for the house that the daughter and her friends are going to occupy, but the limiting factor is at least the daughter, the family member, has to occupy the property, and that daughter or son or nephew or niece, whatever it is, that relative doesn't have to make any money. They just have to legitimately occupy it, like being a student. And what kid today graduates from college and has any money in the bank? They all have student loan debt. And what kid today, in the low 20s, knows anything about property taxes, deductibility of interest, and homeowners insurance? They don't. They have to make a mistake, or somebody's got to teach them. And how do they learn anything about property management? They don't know nothing about that. But if they're going to collect rent from their friends, if friends got to pay $800-900 a month in room and board anyway, why not pay it to your son or daughter or niece or nephew? And they can learn about property management and have money at the end of their time that they're in school. And one of the things that we do is in the second year after establishing residency, we apply for the in-state tuition. So there's some real good savings there. Okay, so that's the third thing. And then now, after you begin to grow your real estate portfolio a little bit, you are going to be dealing with some property management issues, and that's all part of growing your real estate portfolio. In Montgomery County, Maryland, so even before we get to that, does anybody on the call own a rental property today? Okay. Well, when you get to the point where you're growing your real estate portfolio, you're going to be doing property management, and you're going to have to deal with people who don't pay rent, or you think they're going to pay rent, but they don't. In case you're wondering, a lot of people don't. They tell you they're going to pay rent, but they don't. And the best thing to do with that is, you got to be firm with people. You got to tell them right up front what you expect. Do it in writing with the lease agreement, and they're going to test you. They're probably going to pay rent for 1 month or 2 months, and then they're going to give you an excuse. And that's when you got to tell them like it is. You got to tell them, a deal's a deal. You got to pay the rent. And what I do, and what you should do, is you have to learn a little bit about the court system. In Montgomery County, it costs $20 to file a non-payment of rent suit. And what happens is the sheriff goes to the front door of the house that you're renting to these people and they post a non-payment of rent suit. You really don't have any other recourse, by the way. You can't threaten them. You can't, you know, you want to maintain a good relationship with them, but business is business. And the sheriff's department for 20 bucks will go out and post a non-payment of rent. And they'll be in a, I've never actually seen them do it, but they're probably dressed up and they look like a sheriff and they post a non-payment of rent suit. And when a tenant gets that, they get pretty concerned. They either pay or go, or they call you and they don't want to go to court because they know they're wrong. And so I use the non-payment of rent suit sort of like a bill collecting service. I can't think of any better way to spend $20 than to send a law enforcement out to my tenant's property and remind them that they need to pay rent, and it's all perfectly legal. So that's another important aspect of successful property management and growing your real estate portfolio. Does anybody have any questions about what we talked about so far? Okay.
That non-payment of rent suit, is it, I mean, that applies for Montgomery, but is it also in other counties? Is something similar to that, or?
I think so. I think that all the counties have to have that type of thing because they have to have an orderly way to administrate people who don't pay rent.
Right. And is there like a moratorium on that because of COVID at the moment, or?
At the moment there's a moratorium on small claims and non-payment of rent suits. So, but that's been going on about a year, but it's gonna go by the wayside. Things are gonna get back to normal. And there's gonna be a lot of landlords that didn't get rent paid for a long time, and some of those people may decide they want to sell their properties. So it'd be a good opportunity to pick up, some investment properties.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. So let's see. I think that's probably about all I have to talk about today, unless anybody else has any questions about growing your real estate portfolio. Has anybody ever done or been involved in a transaction that involved a 1031 exchange?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so just for everybody's benefit, do you want to tell us what that is?
I mean, essentially, it's a way to not pay taxes on a property that you're selling, and then take the proceeds of the sale from that property without being taxed and use it towards another property within 45 days. It's like a tax shelter for like 45 days.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a great way to avoid paying capital gains taxes on an investment property. I think what you have to do is identify the next property within 45 days of the sale. And you have to buy a like kind of property of equal or greater value, and you can roll $200,000 of appreciated equity into a $500,000 property and not have to pay any capital gains taxes. So that's the fifth and final step. When you get to that point where you're growing your real estate portfolio and you're at a point where you're now trading up to bigger and better properties and sheltering the capital gain profit from all the hard work that you've been doing and managing, the 1031 exchange is, and I do recommend that you get professional tax advice for that, but because you need a qualified intermediary to hold the funds between the two transactions. But I do recommend that you look into that, because that it can jump you up to the next level of property ownership without having to share any of that profit with the government. So, okay, well, does anybody else have any questions about anything? Okay, well, thank you for attending. And if you ever have any other questions about anything, just feel free to call me and or email me, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end the call.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.